Hi, I'm Ken Brown, CEO of Destiny Global, and welcome to this edition of Success Tips. This is a bi-weekly teaching that the trainers here at Destiny Global, myself, Jackie and Carmen, Dr. April Brown, we love to keep you plugged in and growing in between the events that we have, First Steps to Success, which we have numerous times a year, and then the once, of course, Dynasty. We want to keep you moving forward. We want to keep pushing you, and this is one of the ways that we found most effective. So thank you for joining this edition. Today, we're going to be talking about the law of focus. The law of focus. And I have an interesting story that I want to share with you about the law of focus, because it can take you down many different courses or conversations when a person talks about focus. But let me tell you something. Focus is really doing something where you have taken your attention, your time, and your energy, and you're directing it directly at something. This can be a problem, it can be a goal, it can be a number of things. But today I want to talk to you about something that I experienced, and that was a rapid change from one direction to another that required pivoting. And it's a different kind of pivoting than you're probably going to think about. Some of you are probably thinking, I'm going to talk about COVID when we had to change the whole organization. That's actually not it. What I want to tell you about is when I decided I was going to coach. Now, our boys and Chloe, so we have 3 boys and our daughter Chloe, who all wanted to play sports at different times. Chloe wanted to cheer, the boys wanted to play football, so we joined a homeschool football league, really when the boys were in 6th grade. And they played football from the time they were in 6th grade all the way through high school, through the graduation, through 12th grade. And really the last 2 years of the boys, and Caleb is our oldest, and then the twins, Nathan and Noah, had aspirations to, well, Noah specifically had aspirations to play college football. Well, that was going to obviously require him to play. And that was going to require some sacrifice. That was going to require some obvious time out of our schedules and redoing things. But really, in the last 2 years, it required something different because our coach moved on and our team began to take different shapes. So we had a lot of players graduate. We had new ones coming in. But this particular was really hard in getting new players in. So we made a shift from 11-man football to 6-man football. That was a gigantic, huge shift because not only did we change the type of football we were going to be playing and going to have to, really coach the players on, we had decided to make this change really at the end of the school year, and we had less than 4 months to learn the system, get the kids trained, do all these kind of things to really be able to compete effectively within 6-man football. And it was a steep learning curve. What I learned through that was extreme focus. Because I was not going to put kids on the field. I was not going to embarrass them. I wanted them to be prepared. And 6-man football is so different than 11-man football and actually requires a tremendous amount of physical exertion from players because they can run all over the field, a lot more area to cover, and fewer of them to do that. So I had to really get myself in tune and narrow down what was important. The first thing that I realized is I needed someone that I could learn from. Yes, so focus has something to do with learning. Yeah, because if you don't know who you're learning from, you can spend all the time focusing you want, but you'll be focusing on the wrong things. So I really realized that I needed a mentor. And I had a coworker that worked with me at EDS for years and years. His name was Michael Maxwell. And Michael's dad actually coached the state champions for a number of years and participated with them in a school that was in West Texas and even Borden County, a team that we ended up playing. This team was phenomenal, just outrageously successful. In fact, when you went to them, you would have never imagined it was a 6-man football team. It looked like we were going to a college stadium in West Texas. And let me tell you, they knew how to play the game. So anyway, I convinced Michael, drug him alongside me and said, hey man, I really need you to teach me the ropes in this, and eventually got him to join me as the offensive coordinator for the team. And he was just invaluable, but really getting strategies in place, teaching the players how to play. But let me tell you, as we begin to coach, as we begin to learn, and I began to learn from Michael, that was one thing. But to help the team learn was a whole other. So the first thing that I learned in doing all this was eliminate distractions. So literally change the setting from practicing on a football field to the living room at my home. I changed the environment entirely. And we sat on the sofa. We got them, nice little things that they could snack on. We changed everything to get their attention. And then we watched films and began to talk about what they were seeing. Whole different approach. So we began to eliminate these distractions that would pull us from things that we would normally do. And we would do these in 1 to 1.5 hour increments. And what we began to realize is our kids were picking things up by watching other people play. So Michael loaded up on video. We went to Huddle, which is the tool for watching football in any sport, really. But it was a really good tool so that the kids could see, and then we could stop it and analyze it and break things down and really get into the details, right? Which is really point 2. When you're going to focus, you have to get into the details. You have to know what you're going to be doing and the things that you were doing that you need to change. So the law of focus requires you, again, you have to eliminate distractions, and you have to know what you're going to be focusing on. What I'm going to call the details of what you're trying to accomplish. And you need to lay those out very clearly, okay? The third thing that we had to realize very quickly was prioritize. Why would you say that, Ken? Well, so you can eliminate distractions, you can have all the details, but if you don't prioritize the task, you can start getting off course. Because in football, you have offense, you have defense, you have special teams, you have all the things in between that, right? That you have to work out. Who's going to play what positions, how they're going to learn those positions. So it required a lot of priority of what we were going to focus on. And we did this. And I encourage you to do it. When you're focusing and you're really bringing things into focus that you want to do, focus on the hard things first. So we picked out offense was going to be very difficult, right? To transition from 11-man to 6-man. And really focus on the objectives that you're trying to accomplish and start learning the basics of that. And repetition is the mother of success. You hear Carmen talk about that all the time. One of our master trainers here at Destiny Global. And it is repetition, so you can learn. It can become second nature. And really what you want to have is that you repeat something so much that it becomes a habit. That when we call this play, that they knew exactly where to go, they knew the routes to run, they knew how to block, they knew what to do if there was you would prepare for the what ifs, and then you would start getting into the actual practicing on the field. And repetition. And going through that obviously led to the next thing I want to talk about, number 4, which is we learned we had to take breaks. Because here my personality type is one to push through things. In our GYMS training that we do at First Steps to Success, which is so good, I am what they call a Ruby, a person that's just going to go take the heel, I'm going to go do it. So when I'm dealing with other personality types that are not a Ruby, they can look at this and say, wait a minute, that's a whole lot, and we can't, we're ready to go take Mount Everest, just start charging up to the top, right? We might need to bring oxygen, we might need to bring, the supplies, or we'll die in the process, but hey, the mental process of a Ruby can be very pushed forward. So I had to realize that we needed to take breaks and give mental, and it's not just mentally and emotionally exhaust people through a process. So taking those breaks and let people really take time to absorb what we were teaching. And really the last point in this is, in point number 5, is I wanted, as we were learning the different offense and defensive in the plays and how to defend certain plays, really became apparent that we needed to repeat those over and over again. So when I would go through something, we wouldn't just do it one time, we would do it 6 or 7, because I wanted that eventually over time to become a daily habit that we would learn. A daily habit. Now, why is that important? Because focus isn't something you just want to do one time. It's not something you want to do every week or every other week. It's something you need to do every day and multiple times per day to be really good. Recently, Carmen had done a whole teaching on time management that was just phenomenal. And I mean, if you didn't get to see that, I encourage you to go back, and we'll actually probably be doing another one of those in sometime in the not too distant future. But I got to tell you, time, and this is one of the things that we do cover in depth at Dynasty, by the way. But when you start thinking about When you start thinking about time management, that is all about focus, right? So as we realized we needed to create habits that were something that occurred every day so that we were managing practices and our time very well. So we got the offense, defense, special teams in every single practice until we knew that the kids knew what we were doing. And the quarterback could go out and call the play and the team knew what they were doing. The team captain for defense could call a play and the team would line up correctly. So it was always important to create things as a habit. Now, why do you think I'm talking about football? Well, because it's a team sport. Obviously, focus usually requires more than just yourself, okay? It requires a team of people. Here at Destiny Global, Chris and I had to really focus to get this edition of Success Tips done. You know, we're in the new year. We've got 1,000 things pressing. We're coming up here on, think about where we're heading. We've got events on both sides. So you just came off of an event. We have an event coming up, and we have another event in just a short period of time right after that, and a lot of things in between. So it really requires us to be time disciplined and focus on what we want to do and why we want to do it, okay? So what was our goal as a football team? Well, we put in audacious. We call it a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Now, that goal seemed out of reach as we started the football season. Because let me tell you, the only team, since we were so late switching from 11-man to 6-man, the only teams that we could get scheduled with were the best teams in the entire state. Because other teams didn't want to play them, so they would have one or two games that they had, or one or two dates that they had open in the football season. They say, hey, we'd be glad to, but you need to drive to us. So we drove all over the state of Texas. I mean, up to 450, 500 miles, one direction to play a football game. I want you to think about that for a moment. Long, long distances, week after week for a while. And we use those times to reflect because obviously when we got there, we knew that we were going to be playing teams that were certainly going to be better than us. Now, what we learned is the discipline. The very first week we played a team called Jonesboro. And they were the state semifinalists the year before. And they were good. So we had some secret weapons. Actually, one of those is our son Noah. Noah actually ended up going on and playing college football. He played at Texas Lutheran University and then transferred to Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, which is a D2 school. And Noah was playing slot receiver and tight end. And he made the football team, by the way. So kudos to Noah Brown. But in that process of learning how to compete effectively in 6-man, we used Noah as a running some routes across. And we caught the teams because he was actually faster because we had watched film and knew that they didn't have a lot of speed, but what they did have is a lot of size. So we used Noah as a secret weapon, got up on them really quickly. Of course, over time, their big team did wear us down, and they ended up winning the football game. And that repeated itself about 6 weeks in a row. But guess what? In the final end of this, we were able to start scheduling teams that fit our criteria. Because the good thing about sports is eventually they have to equalize because you have to play in a division or a league. And in our second year of playing 6-man, which this would have been the year 2019, we actually got invited to participate in a conference which was the Independence League. And it was we were in the smaller size of it because we had exactly 11 players to play 6-man. So we definitely did not have enough players to play 11-man, which you need about 22 to repeat through and not have people so exhausted. So in 6-man, we had 11 players. And a lot of them played offense and defense, but we would rotate in and sub out so they could get rested, right? Taking those breaks so they could focus when they were in there. This year, we had set a goal that we wanted to at least make the playoffs. Now, we still had to play a lot of difficult teams that year. I mean, really difficult teams. But we learned our lesson, and we were able to schedule at the end of the year the 4 teams, Garland Christian, a team out of Duncanville, and then a team out of Waco, and then one out of South Texas that was really in our conference. And we ended up playing those teams. And we ended up being invited to the state tournament to play for the championship. And it's kind of hard to imagine starting something and in 2 short years ending up playing in the state championship. And this was an amazing experience because focus created all of this. If we had not focused, and oh, by the way, Dr. April Brown was coaching the cheerleaders and had them to a state where they could come in and really entertain the crowd, get them fired up, entertain our players. Just watching them do the pep rally, everything that they did was so intentional. Uniforms, this was not, anything we did was never second rate, as you can imagine, with Dr. Brown. Everything that she did, the uniforms, this team had every skill that they needed to come on the field and really get the crowd fired up. And boy, did we need it there. Because let me tell you something, the team that we were playing they were ready to battle. When we got there the first half, it was a slug back and forth. And we had to focus and really figure out our best plays and figure out how their defense was reacting to what we were doing. And we got the right plays called. And lo and behold, we end up winning that game. We ended up winning the state championship. The good news is I've got Chris is going to show you some pictures throughout this. I don't know where he's going to put them, probably in comments and sections below. But you're going to see some pictures float through here, and you're going to see at the end of this, Dr. April Brown and myself standing with the trophy. And you're going to see our team members. You're going to see pictures of the entire squad, everyone that was a part of it. And the coolest thing for me is that my kids were able to participate in this with us, right? And it was something special. It was something special from beginning to end of that season because they were their part of doing their part in bringing focus in the off-season for weightlifting and strength training. Oh yeah, that was part of it. As well as discipline and running and being in tremendous physical shape. And that resulted in getting through a full season with, mostly not a lot of injuries, but a lot of skill developed throughout that season that we put into play in that final game and won that championship. And of course, the trophy and those things are still, that year is just special to me in so many ways. It also kind of brings me full circle because that was the same year that we had been working with the founder of the organization, of Destiny Global, with King's Ransom Foundation and really putting a new system into place across the street to allow the donations and everything to work really efficiently and effectively. And some of the lessons of really working as a team all came into effect because it was the first time that April and I, besides coaching together effectively, coming into the place of business, which was one of our key goals, was to be able to work together, which wasn't always easy for me, right? Pushing through, making sure, listening to what she was adding value to, and not just pushing my own agenda. It took a lot. It took a lot in football as well, right? Coming together, listening to different inputs, and then putting it all down on paper, and then watching it physically happen. And folks, that's how dreams become reality, is through focus. And you have to be intentional about it. You have to eliminate distractions. You have to pay attention to the details. You have to prioritize your tasks. You have to take breaks because you're going to need those as you get in the real process of making things happen and making focus a daily habit. When you do this, you're going to find that you become unstoppable because you can work through things. You can figure things out because you're taking time every day to reflect, to get on top of the situation, and to begin to analyze what you need to change. So I hope this really encourages you. 2024 is going to be your best year. Focus. Take what I just taught you and apply it to your life. And I don't care who you are. I can use this lesson. I'm going to go back and listen to it myself because that just reminded me, preparing for this, is things that I need to focus on just a little bit deeper and make sure that I'm applying that focus every single day. There are so many distractions around us. My goodness, it's crazy. April and I actually use the word intruders because when something comes in and steals my time, it's taking from me away from the objective or goal that I have for either that day, that week, that month, or that year. Don't let things distract you and take you off course. And thank you for joining me on this edition of Success Tips.